This is the original fx graph where x is larger than 4. This is that coordinate on that starting point, which is a 4, 1. Can we sketch on the same diagram your inverse function based on the properties that I've shown you above? To illustrate the reflection, the first thing you should do is go and get this line y equals to x drawn out first. Draw it as a dotted line. That means you want to have this y equals to x dotted line. Before we draw in the visualization of the reflection together. We should plan for our coordinate nicely. You know that when you have 4, 1 on f, inverse function will have 1, 4. So to get the coordinate nicely, let me just connect up. This is the value 1 for the y. Do we know where is x value 1? When it touches your line y equals to x, it must be x value 1. There should be this nice square box here to give you 1. You should get the graph drawn nicely. Same for the value 4. How do we get y is 4? I could connect up. When it touches the line y equals to x, that will give me the point y equals to 4. So I can pinpoint nicely the position of the point 1, 4 will be here. You should use these square boxes to guide you on the exact position so that your shape is nice. The other point that I would want to highlight to you is this current initial point is actually coincidentally a turning point. What is important for us for turning point is the gradient at this current position is 0. Anything that has a horizontal tangent, when you draw the inverse function, which is a mirror image, you should draw it slightly vertical first before you bend the graph. Any horizontal, like an asymptote, becomes a vertical asymptote because we will take mirror image across this y equals to x line. You aim for the graph to cut at this same intersection. If your fx cuts x at this point, inverse will also cut at this point. So the mirror image will look like this after you draw. You bend it to make it connect at this point and it keeps going up and up and up. Mirror image about the line y equals to x. Do not turn down. There's a tendency that you force the connection and you turn down. It will not go down. It will keep going upwards. Both graphs are always 1 to 1. Let me just put a note here. fx and inverse. If the inverse exists, both will be 1 to 1 function. So do not curl the graph down. Aim for that connection, but don't curl down. So this graph that I am trying to draw is y equals to f inverse x. Look like a mirror image. So although I'm trying to draw out manually, later I will get you to key to the GC. Always use the graphing calculator to help you get the shape in case you're confused. And then there's one more part below where it's a common hence or a common consequential problem. First, they say, can we just write down the equation of the line where you should reflect your fx to get the inverse function? Can I just write the solution right above here? We have just seen from above, it's always reflection across y equals to x. And they say, hence, can we find the exact solution to fx equals to f inverse? In order to solve this, you don't want to find inverse. Finding inverse can be tedious. You should relate to the graph and see that all three graphs cut at the same point. intersect at same point. Three graphs as in your F inverse and your line X, all of them are cutting at that same point. And that's because I don't want to solve the intersection with F inverse. It will be slow. Let's intersect with this straight line X instead, since it's going to be the same intersection. Okay, so you should quote, we should say from the graph. You should mention that you make that observation first. Since y equals to fx, okay, we quote our three graphs. Intersect at the same point. So if I would like to solve fx is f inverse, this is equivalent to, I don't need to intersect with the inverse, I can just intersect with the line x. So let's simplify. They want us to find exact, so unfortunately you have to go for your quadratic formula. Negative b plus minus square root your b squared minus 4ac. Okay, let me write for you the numbers in decimals because I want to show one more value. You see that there are two solutions. However, the intersection clearly showed that there's only one point. So you should reject one of them, but that rejection is based on your domain. The domain of your f function is larger than 4. So the graph should only intersect anywhere larger than 4, nothing before that since there's no graph. Okay, so give the answer that is larger than 4, which is the 6.3 part. The other one should be rejected. And when you reject, you should quote it's because x is larger than 4. And quote the domain inside. So how about, let's say, the problem switches a little bit. Instead of equal sign, they say, can we solve f less than or equals to f inverse? This is actually done exactly the same way also. You instead solve for fx lesser than or equals to x will do. I can use this graph to show you why so. It's because if your fx is lower than f inverse, which is this part, fx is lower than f inverse, it will also be lower than your x line as well. Okay, both will hold. So don't need to solve for less than f inverse, directly solve for less than. Okay, but I want to show you, you go to the next page, this inverse function can be drawn on the GC. I cover the steps first, then I get you to try it out. When you want to draw inverse function, the domain can be keyed with a division. This is a domain. You can key as you divide, then you put bracket x. The inequality sign can be found when you press second math. Second math, you can select whichever inequality that you are looking for. So how do we draw? Okay, I just circle the main point first before you try. When you press second program, there is this draw inverse. You can select the draw inverse and have it on the main screen. You paste it, it will go to the main screen. Draw inverse needs you to indicate a particular graph you want to draw the inverse for, which means which graph did you key in under your Y. If you key at Y1, you should indicate Y1. So how to get this to appear to indicate Y1, you press this alpha trace. Alpha trace will get this menu to be popped up. And you can then select your Y1. This Y1 must appear. You enter, you will see that this graph will be drawn out without even you finding the inverse function. This is the inverse graph. Okay, but make it a habit also to draw in X so that you can see the reflection nicely. Draw your Y equals to X. One last thing I need you to know, for this domain type, if it is in between two numbers, unfortunately, the GC needs you to key this word N. You cannot just key as per 0 to 4. You must type the word N. And N is located at logic. So instead of when you press second math, test will give you your inequality, logic will give you the word N. Okay, so go for this logic in order to key in this word if you need in between two numbers.